Joining today's podcast is my good friend, the great Scott Emerson, the Oakland A's Major League pitching coach. Welcome, Emo. I'm thrilled to finally have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Wayne. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I always love talking with you. And I had wanted to have you on the very first show, and just scheduling and then other things didn't work out. And I'm glad you could make it today.
Glad to be here.
I always talk about you on every show because you always have such great ways of distilling concepts into bite-sized gems. Like the phrase useful velocity. And instead of making your pitches better, make better pitches, and so many more. That's a major league gift you have. You have any other gems I haven't mentioned, maybe?
Well, I mean, I think they just come out of the space sometimes. I'm sure I got some, but can't think of any offhand. But those are just things that I truly believe in. That all the metrics can be all the metrics, but if you don't make better pitches, then you have no chance. Fastballs down and away, fastballs up and in, those are gold. At the end of the day, a lot of people they chase their vert movement, they chase their horizontal movement, but nothing matters if they don't command the pitch. And you got a 22-inch vert fastball off the backstop, that ain't working for us, right? So there's just a lot of things that I think are important to pitching.
Yeah. So like Maddox talked about just making good pitches when he's in trouble. Explain, what do you mean by make better pitches? Like, what exactly would that mean?
Well, when you talk about what the difference between control and command, when you got the ability to control the baseball, which for me just means you can throw it inside the box. Mm-hmm. You can just throw a strike. You pitch to the strike zone. But when you command the baseball, you got the ability to move it to certain areas of the plate. Then you got the ability to throw it outside the strike zone when you want to. And when you can do that and attack a hitter's weakness, it's gold. When you just throw a strike, just because you can throw a strike doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to beat the hitter.
Yeah, I talked about that today. Earlier, I had Casey Mulholland on. And I was talking about guys throw 95 down and they can throw it for a strike. And I've seen many guys that can get two strikes, a strike and a foul, but they can't put a guy away because they have no put away pitches. They can't pitch inside. They can't pitch for a put away. They can't funnel their pitches. So I think command takes a heavy role in doing that.
Yeah, a guy that has a good slider is a guy that gets somebody to chase a slider, but also has the ability to command that fastball and has his opponent respecting that. When they have to respect your fastball, your slider location doesn't even have to have the best horizontal break or doesn't have to have the best downward break. It's just got to be in a good area of the plate because they're respecting one spot of a location with a heater. And now all of a sudden, you're changing eye levels. You get them thinking, okay, this guy can throw a fastball for a strike. Boom, you hit him with a slider, or vice versa. You got a guy that pitches a little bit backwards, can throw a slider for a strike, and all they think that is coming is a slider. Boom, and then you beat him with a well-located fastball.
Yeah, well, especially if you can funnel pitches, like we were talking in an episode the other day about. If you're pitching in the zone, the same area, and have different movement, the batter, you're keeping them honest because the pitch can go this way and go that way. And if you're mixing your pitches right and mixing your speeds and your angles, that's more for the batter they have to deal with,
Yeah, I always said, if Mike Maddox or Greg Maddox, probably both of them, but if they threw all their pitches right down the middle of the plate, but they changed speeds,
they
would still be fairly effective because they got movement to their pitches. They're throwing a strike. You don't know what's coming. They're not predictable and they're changing speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, if you are able to throw a lot of strikes, well, then the batter has to be on his toes. He can't sit there and take every pitch. And so that also gives you an opportunity to go a little bit outside of the zone, like just on the shadow zone too.
Yeah, you want, ideally as a pitcher, you want the hitter to be on the defensive. You want him to know, man, I don't know what side of the plate he's going to. I don't know what off speed he's going to use because he has it all. I always say the best pitchers in baseball can maximize the hitter's weakness. They can take advantage of a hitter's weakness. All hitters have weaknesses. Yeah. They have fastball location weaknesses. Can I go there? As you know, the fastball is not being thrown as much in the big leagues. One, because it's not being commanded as well. Guys just want to throw to the zone, throw as hard as they can and spin it the best they can. And now see what happens to the hitter, see what the hitter can do with it. And when the hitters, take pitches, it makes it harder for pitchers if they're not throwing balls inside the strike zone. So how good are you when you throw the ball inside the strike zone? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And also command, I did mention, is like throwing inside to keep a guy from claiming part of the plate. Because if you give up part of the plate as a pitcher, you're fighting with one arm,
Yeah, that's your ability to sequence and move hitters and change eye levels. And, you get them thinking you're coming inside and then you could do something on the outside. You think they think you're going to throw on the outside and then you throw the ball on the inside. If you can do that and work hitters east and west, north and south, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. That's pitching, right? We always talk about, we see so many guys throwing really hard, and that's good. But I think if you only throw hard, you're not going to have success, because you have to have a lot of other qualities for a pitcher to have success besides throwing hard,
Well, we get back to that term you opened up the show with, is the useful velocity. And your velocity is only good when you can throw the baseball. Okay, let's just say you're controlling the strike zone with your fastball and you have a high fastball. You got a bigger margin of error than other people if you throw harder. But the more you command it, the better you're going to be. Because you can, like I said, keep exploiting the hitter's weakness. So, throwing, just because you throw hard and throwing off the backstop doesn't make you, a good pitcher. So, these guys that have useful velocity, the ability to use it when they throw it, they don't necessarily have to, throw it 60% of the time, but, they got to have the ability to have that hitter think, man, he could be throwing me a fastball somewhere, and then you could throw something else. Or, man, he could be thinking, the hitter could be thinking, man, he's going to be throwing me a fastball. But if you execute the fastball up and in, down and away, you're going to be successful. It's that middle across the strike zone that, hitters do a lot of damage on. And that's where the technology can come into play a lot for me, is understanding, okay, does my ball drop a lot? If it drops a lot, I can start it middle across the zone and have it end up bottom third, and I'm really good. If I got a good carry fastball, I can throw it to the top of the zone and let it stay at the top of the strike zone. Mm-hmm. If I got a ball that drops more than others, and I throw it for the top of the strike zone, well, it tends to drop middle across, and I'm in trouble. But people say, well, a lot of people say, well, just because your ball drops, you shouldn't pitch up in the zone. I totally disagree. You just have to start the ball up higher and let it drop into the top third of the strike zone. You throw balls to the top third, I don't care what your metrics are, you're going to be successful. You throw balls to the bottom third, I don't care what your metrics are, you're going to be successful. If you throw the ball middle across the strike zone, I don't care what your metrics are, you're probably not going to be successful.
Yeah, it was as Max says, you're probably going to be backing up third base a lot in home plate.
Yeah, getting your sprint work in during the game.
Yeah, like I always say, I don't know where I heard this, but it's someone else's saying, which was, most home runs aren't hit, they're thrown. And I think I see that a lot.
They're the best hitters in the big leagues, and dealing with elite hitters, they capitalize on your mistakes. And like I said, your mistake ends up middle across. You know, a lot of sinker ballers, if they don't get the ball at the bottom third, they're going to be in trouble. And the same thing with the carry fastball guys. If they don't get it to the top third, they're going to be in trouble. But you can have a, you know, decent carry, average carry, or less than average carry. But if you get it to the top third, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, so you got to command it. Now, how do you teach command? I mean, I see videos online a lot about people trying to train command, and what I'm seeing really in those videos is teaching control. I haven't really seen any real concrete ways aside from my target that people train command.
Well, I think that, you know, first of all, you have to start with control.
Of course, yeah.
You know, when I was the pitching coordinator, you know, I pretty much try to set the bylaws of, you know, the rookie level. We called it box fastballs. You just got to throw it in the box. You got to prove to me that you can throw pitches in the box at 66% strikes with your fastball and low 60s with your off speed. I didn't even ask rookie ballers to throw balls. You know, I just wanted to see how many times you could throw it inside that box. And then you start moving up as they move up levels. You start half boxing. Okay, can he throw it? Can he throw it to the upper half of the plate, to the lower half of the plate, to the outer half of the plate, the inside part of the plate? So for me, each level you start, you know, graduating your pitches. You know, backdoor sliders. I didn't expect guys to be able to backdoor sliders until high A ball. So, you know, definitely you, in my opinion, you have to start with being able to control the baseball, keep it simple, throw enough pitches inside the box, changing speeds, being unpredictable. Right then and there, you got a chance. And then as we move up to higher levels, you got to actually, you know, throw, you know, command. And I call it quality strikes. You got to be able to throw out quality strikes. But, you know, to your question, how do you train that? The first is the quality catch play. You know, if you're not playing quality catch, you're going to be in trouble.
Right, throwing to a target all the time, whether you're catching or whatever you're doing, right?
You know, I like our guys, you know, to either hit the guy in the chest or hit him in the hips. Anything higher than that is a wasted throw. It's a catch. You know, we're not training to play catch. We're not just throwing the ball just to throw the ball. Every throw is thrown with a purpose. We're putting it in a good spot. You know, I wanted to be that guy that no one wanted to play catch with, because I'd handcuff them at the waist. And then obviously, if you can't play a good game of catch, it's not easy to throw good quality bullpens. Then when you get into your bullpen, you know, I like short boxes. I like bringing the catcher up close. I like guys to throw the ball, be able to throw the ball slow, and then build up to hard. I remember a couple years ago, you know, I go to big league camp early, probably 10 days. I go about 10 days early, and we signed a left-handed pitcher with a good hard fastball. He never got out of AA with any organization. We were a third or fourth organization, and he says, "Hey, I don't have anybody to play catch with." And I said, "Well, I'll play catch with you." And he said, "I just wanted to let you know I can't throw anything soft." And right then and there, I'm like, this is why the guy doesn't throw quality strikes, because he doesn't know how to control his arm and space enough to be able to play catch. Just a simple game of catch, he's telling me he has to throw it as hard as he can. And there's no touch there. And the guys that don't have very good touch, they're the guys that don't command the baseball at all. They're just up there throwing it to the zone.
Yeah, I saw that about AA too, where it started separating out the pitchers who had what I would say was command and also had other pitches. Where the lower levels, the guys really hard and they had control, and batters who were not disciplined would swing at it and get outs. But then when they got to AA, I started seeing this separation with the batters and the pitchers. You know, have you seen the same kind of thing?
Yeah, AA for me is the first real league of professional baseball. It starts separating you from everybody else. You know, I know, you know, for years we would have soft tossing left-handers in A ball, and they could get away with changeups all day long, which I love changeups. But I kept telling them, you know, your changeup's only going to be as good in AA as your fastball command. If you can't keep them honest with your fastball, your changeup's not going to work. So, you know, we call it, tomfoolery. You can't just go out there and keep fooling people at low levels and expect that these things are going to work at the big league level. There's not many not many pitchers at the big league level that are separated from somebody else. The only way what separates them is their command. But you bring up a guy throwing 97. A lot of guys are throwing 97 now. But what makes this guy better than the next guy? And that is the separator is the ability to command. And I also believe that every pitcher in baseball can create swing and miss if he knows how to sequence his pitches and use his pitches. I mean, he's got it's not like he's never thrown a swing and miss pitch before. What happens is they're not repeating enough to get more swing and miss, or they're not throwing enough strikes to get more swing and miss. Look, the more strikes you throw, the more swing and miss you potentially have. Just like the more contact you potentially have. So now if I can throw it in my commanded zones and throwing more strikes, I'm going to get more swing and miss. And guess what? I'll probably get some more balls in play as well. So, it's a catch-22, but the combination of the ability to just throw strikes when you want to and throw balls when you want to is important.
Yeah. And mixing speeds and movement. And there's so many other things that's why I wanted to talk to you too, is that everyone always talks about max velocity. And you and I always chuckle at that because there's so many other things that make a great pitcher. And it's not usually talked about. One other thing I've noticed too, in describing control and command, like I describe control as the ability to throw strikes. I describe command as the ability to throw to the location of your choice in or out of the zone.
The ability to control the strike zone is being able to just throw the ball inside the box when you need to. He's a strike thrower. He's got a knack to put it over the plate. And then the commanded guys are the guys that have the ability to go to the hardest spots to hit. Fastballs up and in, fastballs down and away. Those are the two areas that analytically show up the best for a pitcher. And when you can do that, you're going to be really successful. So, the control is really good. And we got to be honest too. Velocity does have a part in this game. It's not it's not like you can't come up and get away with 86, 87 all the time in the big leagues.
No.
It's not that easy. But what velocity gives you is that margin of error. But in today's game, where in my opinion, the big league hitters can time a bullet. If you just keep throwing fastball after fastball after fastball, it doesn't matter how hard it is. Look, we're also training. There's a lot of, people training to throw fastballs, but in reality, they're not throwing them. So it's really more so helping out their breaking pitches and getting the breaking balls tighter and seeing if guys can swing and miss. But we go back to the swing and miss. Swing and miss is just a byproduct of how many strikes you can control and the ability to have that hitter thinking this guy's a good strike thrower, and then you can go outside the strike zone and get him to chase. And you can get swing and miss at lower levels because they're just chasing your ball outside the strike zone. But when you get to see these elite hitters in the big leagues, they got to respect your fastball before they're going to start chasing your slider.
Yeah, well, even in Double-A and up, you start running into batters who have a plan. In the lower, like GCL and all that, you've got batters who have no plan. They just swing into anything, And,
they're up there trying to hit their way to the big leagues, which more power to them, right?
Yeah, but as a pitcher, you have to deal with those guys differently than you do with a batter that has a plan. Because if the guy's just hacking, well, there's a different plan as opposed to a guy that has some kind of plan,
Well, if you obviously we get a ton of data, here in the big leagues, and all I'm doing is watching swings and evaluating game plans, and the best hitters have negative swing numbers in every count. But when you put it in the zone, they're swinging. They just don't chase, and they don't swing at pitches that they can't hit until they really have to with two strikes. And that's just what the best hitter. The best hitters in the world will have an approach to the strike zone, and they're willing to walk, they're willing to take what you give them. And when you see hitters like that, then you really have to execute your pitches. And what comes with command too is when you see the same hitters over and over. Now it's been a little bit different this year because we haven't played teams in our division only but 4 series instead of 6 series. So starters are getting 3 starts. Maybe they pitched in every series, but back when we played in 6 series, you're making 5 starts against a team pretty much all the time. And now the hitter starts gaining his advantage. Not that they have the advantage, but the more a hitter gets the intel on a pitcher, the more they could be successful. But
yeah, I was talking with Dan DeQuette about that the other day, and he thinks like that's probably why the Orioles might be doing better this year.
Yeah, and that's why you have to execute your pitch, because a guy gets a sample size on you, they know how you're pitching them. You know how you're pitching them. Now it's about the execution. You got to throw a ball down and away, but the guy hits the ball middle in a little bit, and your ball leaks back over the middle of the plate. Advantage hitter. Now it's up to him. What can he do? So if you execute your pitches in the big leagues with all the data that we have, and you're willing to stick to that game plan, you're going to be successful.
Well, that's also terminology too, because people will say you should execute your pitches or locate your pitches. And in my mind, I think they're saying command your pitches.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. But other people might hear it as just throw a strike or whatever. You know what I mean? I think the nuance between command and control is lost on some people. At the lower levels, you only want control because you're learning. But as you go up into college and start working your way up, I think that's when people start getting separated. And that control is not good enough anymore. You need to start developing some command as you move up. Would you say that?
Yeah, that's because the hitters keep getting better and better. Look, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there were no facilities like we have today, and these kids hitting in the offseason. Hitters are getting bigger, stronger, faster, a better eye, a better approach, because that's walks are acceptable, and to a degree right now, strikeouts are acceptable. Swing hard in case you hit it is kind of some of the things that are going on in these places, and it's not a bad theory, because if you run into 1 or 2 in a game, it could be the knockout punch. So me, if I was an offensive guy, wouldn't want my whole team to be in that mode. But sometimes these guys are doing it because that's how they're getting paid. No one's getting paid really anymore in the big leagues to move runners over. If they did, you'd probably see it more often, and it turned back into more of a team game than guys trying to hit bombs and stuff. But with a guy on, that's 2 runs, so I don't blame him. But it sometimes can make a little bit easier for pitchers when big swings, big holes. And that's when I went back earlier and said the best hitters in the big leagues take what you give them. I mean, facing Mike Trout is no easy treat. I've watched this guy for 9 years up here now, and I mean he's just a guy that he'll take his walk, he'll take his base hit to right field. You leave it up out over, he'll take his homer to right field. You throw a lazy breaking ball in the strike zone, and he'll turn on it and hit it to left field. I mean, that's what the best hitters in the world do. They capitalize on your mistakes, or like I said, they're willing to, take what you give them. The guy that doesn't want to take what you give him, and he's in the zone, out of the zone, trying to pull a breaking ball down the way, or trying to pull a good heater on the outer half of the plate. The pitcher keeps gaining the advantage if that happens. So the hitter is just as important to the pitching as anything.
When you're working with pitchers and developing command so they don't make mistakes, what role do you think their mechanics have to do with it, and what role do you think that the mental focus has to do with their command?
They're real important. Control the controllables. If you can control your body and you move well, and repeat well. You're going to probably keep the same release point on a consistent basis. You're gonna make better pitches. If you're falling all over yourself, falling off the mound, your arm slot moves all over the place, you're not going to make consistent pitches.
Yeah, I always describe it as if you're in a rowboat trying to shoot a can with a gun, and you're going the rowboat, you can time it and you could probably shoot it, but wouldn't it be better to get out of the boat, stand on the ground, and shoot?
Yeah, I mean, if you really dig into this and you look at major league starters, in general probably have better deliveries than major league relievers, right? They're more repeatable. They're more under control. They're not throwing for max effort. And that's why they're still starters. And then the guys that throw max effort, and this isn't everybody, this is just in general, guys that can throw strikes and they can throw hard, but they don't repeat as well. They can move to the bullpen and have great careers out of the bullpen.
And so I had talked a bit with Gil about he had worked with Doc Holliday and how he got sent down and the mental things he did, the arm slot change he made. We all know about Greg Maddux. You talk about Dorfman all the time. I really believe that mental focus and mental training has a lot to do with especially command.
Yeah, I mean, visualization, there's self-breathing. There's a lot of things that go into being able to throw strikes and play this game. The ability to slow the baseball game down. Our bench coach, Darren Bush, and I, we always talk about, pitching above your means. And that meaning for us is like a guy's overthrowing because he's not sure about his talent and his skill at a certain level. So he has to try to throw harder, has to try to make things better, has to try to make his pitches nastier. And for me, that's part of injury problems. And that's part of the inability to execute and throw quality strikes is you might not be ready for that level. And you're working so dang hard to get a major league hitter out that you're going above your means.
Yeah. My saying for that is I always tell, be you.
Yeah, 100%, and yeah, I would just tell people that, I had a lot of guys that when I was pitching coordinator, they would ask me, they say, Emo, if you thought I'd stunk, would you tell me so I could quit? And I'm like, look, if you just be you, don't try to be 96, 97 if you're 92, 93. Execute what you can do and be unpredictable with what you're doing, and you'll be successful. It's when we try to pitch above our means and be somebody else and try to do things we're incapable of doing that get us in trouble.
Yeah, I agree completely. I have a list that I made up of things that I thought were like important for a pitcher. Probably most of them came from you, talking with you over the years. I really want to know what you think are the top four. So I'm going to show you a list, and you could pick the top four. I'll say them for people who are listening with audio only. The first one is a character, and that's a character of a person. Command, changing speeds, movement, max velocity, sequencing, reading batters, and mental toughness.
Yeah, this will be easy for me. Command, change of speeds, movement, and I'll say reading batters instead of sequencing, because that if you read the batter, you can kind of go into the sequencing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of what I call swing recognition, is reading hitters, and then that takes you into that sequencing. Obviously, mental toughness is always important for pitchers. But if you have the command, change of speeds, movement, and the ability to read hitters, you're going to be fairly successful. And the things that I've taught is the 5 elements of pitching. And my 5 elements of pitching are what you got down there pretty much: location, change of speeds, movement, effort level, and velocity. And I learned this from Rick Peterson and Ron Romanek 25 years ago. It's really instilled in me today that, you know, those are the important parts of pitching. Can I command the baseball? If hitting's timing and then pitching is disruption of timing, so that's change of speeds. Can I have the movement to the baseball where I can get a ball off the barrel, whether I'm moving it in to the hands or I'm moving it off the barrel away? Then the effort level is, can I just stay cool, calm, and collected and poised and under control? And this goes back to what we just talked about. Can you be you? Can you, your effort level is what you do under control to throw quality strikes. And then, velocity. Everybody knows that at the big league level or even in professional baseball, you need some velocity to be successful. But if I was a high school pitcher and I could locate my pitches, or if I could just locate, I'm going to be successful. If I'm a college pitcher and I can locate and change speeds, I'm going to be successful. And then if in pro ball, if I can just keep adding on to these 5 elements, and then to mix this also in is I have what's called variables of pitching: in and out, up and down, back and forth, and what we call tilting. Tilting is the ability to go up and in and down and away. And these are things that I've learned from some of the great pitching coordinators that I've worked for. Ron Romanek, Gil Patterson, Gary Ruby, and the great Marty Demerit. And those guys, I learned from the best. I learned from the best guys.
Yeah, they're around. Awesome.
And if people don't know those guys, they ought to do some investigation.
Yeah, Gil is brilliant, and he's also just a great guy. I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah, Gil, what an inspiration. Warrior mentality is one of the things he brought to the organization when I was here.
That's what he said, be the attacker, not the attacked, the hunter, not the hunted.
You're only as good as your next pitch. And he really instilled a lot of things and qualities that I talk about with our pitchers, and, one pitch at a time. And, he was big into really making me bigger into the mental part of the game that, understand, sometimes when you coach, you revert, you start out reverting as a player. What you think as a player is what you're thinking as a coach. That's a wrong approach. The right approach is don't be stuck in one way. You've got to have the ability to understand everything in this game.
Yeah, and language is important. For example, like Sean had written a chapter of the first book about language, because I would say something meaning something in my mind, what I said. He would interpret those words kind of differently. So having a common language that when you say something as a coach, your player gets what you mean.
Well, yeah, that's I like to use analogies, and I'm always asking, do you get it? Do you understand? Tell me. Get them to tell you back.
Yeah.
So you can get it right the first time. But what I was saying too is, like, I love to research. I love to hear other people's theories. What we do is we take. I mean, I'm taking pitching information from everybody all over the world.
Well, we're all learning from someone else. That's,
even if I believe at one time it's baloney, BS, I'll start thinking, I wonder why this guy thinks of this in this light, and then I'll dig in on it, and then I might say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, or I might say that's a pretty good idea, and I'm collaborating with people that don't even know I'm collaborating with them, because I'm reading their research or their information. A lot of it good, a lot of it terrible. A lot of it they don't understand. They're not working with the elite athlete in the big leagues, or understanding the pressures, or understand. But some people just think it's so easy to backdoor a breaking ball and make Hall of Fame pitches and look at the technology and say, hey, why can't you do this?
Well, you got to practice it. Like, for example, like in working with Sean's, like sliders and things like that, we actually practice that. So if we didn't practice that, how could you throw it? You got to wait till a game to
Correct.
try it.
The first thing you have to do is you need to master 3 pitches, and that's mastering your fastball with command, mastering your breaking ball, and mastering a changeup. Yeah. After you can master those 3 pitches, then you get to move on to other sorts of pitches, backdoor and sinkers, front door and cutters,
funneling,
and sink. But what's happening now is we're jack of all trades, master of none. And this is no disrespect on anybody, but it's true. Is you're getting these pitchers, these young pitchers, they're decorating the inside of their house before the house is even built. They're showing up and going, I got 6 pitches. I go, yeah, but you got none that are any good. You got to get 3. You got to get fastball command. You need it. Not telling you have to throw it all the time, but
but I think when I said earlier that people confuse command and control, when you tell them you got to get command of your fastball, I think a lot of those guys in their mind is I got to throw strikes with my fastball, but command is not that. But that's not it.
Well, because they're just trying to get people in the door. I'm trying to build a big leaguer that's sustainable for a long time. There's a difference there, and this is no disrespect on what we're calling the gurus, because there's some unbelievable facility training out there that goes on, and
what they do getting them to throw harder is commendable. They're doing a good job there. My beef only is that they tend to make those guys think that's all they need when that's not all they need.
Well, my beef, and I've been there and I've seen it before, where a guy bounces a breaking. I'm going to do a clinic at one facility a few years ago, and this guy's giving pitching lessons, and he doesn't know who the heck I am. And this kid bounces a breaking ball in the dirt. He says, "That's nasty. Alex Bregman is going to swing at that." I said, "No, he's not. Bregman don't swing at that. Trust me, he don't chase that bad." So, or hey, good pitch. And they give him these false ideas, and it's 97, but it's not a strike. And so then they give this guy a belief that he's good. No, good is being able to get hitters out. It's not being able to be good in a lab setting, right? So, these guys, they trust these guys, which is great. But they trust them when they're not facing big league hitters or facing hitters. Well, my guru says I need to do this. Well, yeah, that would be great. But how about get hitters out? You know what I mean? So,
my background in data, and I've said this a few times on the show. People, I think, are often surprised when I say my most important stat is, did you win the game? All these other angles and all these things, like, my depth of knowledge into that data. I only use it towards winning. So ultimately, did you win? And if you're not focused on that, I don't care how hard you throw or how hard you spin it. You got to come back to
I can tell you this, Wayne. Obviously, we're not having the greatest season, in baseball. We're struggling.
I think you have, because you've had a kind of rough time because they traded away a lot of your good players, and you haven't had time to train the ones that you got, which you got some really good ones, but it takes time to train them. I think you've done phenomenal with what you have. Like the Astros, you took 2 out of 3 the other day. That's awesome.
What I will say about this group is they work. They're hard-working young men.
Yeah, you got some really good. I know some of those pitchers, because they was with my son in AAA and AA. They're great pitchers. So you got some really good guys to work with, but of course they're going to need time.
Yeah. Back to the guru thing. My point is, you can't shovel these guys and tell them how good they are in a lab setting when they don't go out and get outs. And what happens is I was good in the off season. The off season, there's no hitters there. I mean, I can't tell you, in probably the 70 bullpens I've ever thrown in the off season, I never gave up a hit. I never walked anybody, and I struck everybody out. That doesn't mean nothing. It's the hitter will tell you how good you are.
Absolutely. You got to compete. We were talking today about a lot of times they preach process over results. I agree you have to work and stick with your process, but at some point you have to measure the results to know if your process is any good. So to me, the measure of results is, did you win?
Well, 100%. What a lot of people, a lot of people understand, and a lot of people don't. At the highest level, and hopefully at the level that you're competing at, results matter most. And that's why you're playing the game. I've never went out and played any sport or anything just to go through the motions and see what happens. I went out to try to step on you and beat you. And
Yeah,
whether
I'll
I
give
lost,
it.
I lost. I lost plenty of games in my life, but I'm a fight you. I'm gonna go in and give it what I have to win the game, and not just look at the process. Now I say process a lot here. It is about a process
Well, you
of
do need a
trying to
process.
gain the result. You need to have a process to gain the results. And
Yes.
the process is basically having a good routine, having good work ethic, having the ability to be responsible for what you're doing and take responsibility for what you did. And when you do that, hopefully it leads to the results that we're all looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is another thing, oddly enough, that leads back to the command tracker, is that it actually makes these pitchers accountable in their bullpens, where a lot of bullpens are thrown with the catcher moving around. And if they didn't hit their spots, it's hard to tell. But some guys, they're using the target. They find out, okay, like DBU, they were saying they first threw to the target and they're getting like 20% command rate. They thought they were good, 20%. Then later on, they got really good. But until they were held accountable, they can't correct, they can't improve, Same thing with winning a game. I think that holds you accountable. That's how you improve.
Yeah, we obviously we use we got all the data out for our bullpens. We got the TrackMan out, we got the Edgertronic cameras out, we got other cameras out. Some days we're using our Kinetrack system on the main mound with all our data. And I laugh when guys go, what was that? And they're trying to ask for their horizontal break or their vertical break, and I'll say ball 3. None of it matters until the pitch is executed. And that's where I said earlier, you can't decorate the interior of the house until you build the house. All these young programs and all these young pitchers, and they bring in the data, they bring in the technology, and they're putting the cart ahead of the horse, because you have to build the foundation of the pitcher first, and that's mechanics. Having the ability to have repeatable mechanics. Why? So you can command the baseball. And when you command the baseball, then you start looking at the metrics and saying, okay, where can I start my pitch out? How can I command it? Yeah, how can I start? I got 17 inches of horizontal break to my sinker. If I throw it middle in to my arm side, it's going to be a ball. So I got to throw it over here. I got to start it here, or I got to my curveball has got it's -12. Where can I throw it? And that's the beauty of technology and the data. What happens is when you're starting to train guys to pitch to a number, it ain't going to work. You got to get 17 inches of carry. Okay, well, what if it's 13 that day?
Yeah, like in Pitch Grader, that pitch designer. If you go in there, you call up the guy's pitches, and it lets you separate his pitches by their movement profiles. So you can develop a pitch or tweak a pitch to maximize the effectiveness. Because I had looked at the best pitchers, and as a lost velocity, I was wondering why they did better. And so that's why I wrote that second book, to kind of analyze that. And I found
who forwarded that book for you?
Yeah, I wonder who did that. That was Scott Emerson. Yeah, you and I worked on that book. And the idea was, when their pitches were different enough from each other, I found that they were getting results that were positive for them, even if they missed their location. And so when people are designing a pitch without regard to the other pitches, I think they're wasting their time, because you can design a pitch that won't pair well with the other pitches.
Well,
Have you seen
that's
that kind of thing?
yeah, that's where like the sweeper, the sweeper comes into play. I think the sweeper is really good for guys that throw really hard that have no
Well,
breaking
guys
balls
who have a
because they
low
get separation.
yeah, if you got a 3/4 and you've got a sinker and a cutter, a sweeper works great. If you're overhead with a curveball and a four seam, is a sinker good for you? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think well, your delivery can play, your arm action can play into certain pitch designs and certain pitches, and that comes with command. I've been pretty big in the last 4 years of learning motor preferences and understanding how your body moves and whether you're a horizontal or vertical athlete. Basically a lot of it is, tall and fall is a style of pitching. Drop and drive is a style of pitching.
Yeah.
And if you're a tall and fall guy and you're trying to make him a drop and drive guy, one, you're going to risk injury. Two, you're going to risk command issues. And if you don't know his motor profile, you could be in trouble. Not saying you're going to be, but he's less likely to be successful if he's trying to be somebody who he's not, just because industry standards say so. We've talked for years about shoulder to hip separation being the holy grail, but what happens is you really don't know if it's the shoulder or hip separation, the distance, or how fast it is, or the synchronization of it when it happens. Some guys don't depend on shoulder to hip separation. There's low mobility movers, there's high mobility movers in their thoracic spine. And you got to try to identify which is which, because some guys just can't create good shoulder and hip separation. So they're going to get their energy from somewhere else. And usually that's from the top of the body first.
Oh, yeah. I bet Marty Egan would have some good insights into that stuff, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Listen, it's been great talking with you. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. Thanks for coming on the show. And every time I talk to you, I learned something,
Well, thanks for having me too. And Wayne, thanks for being a pioneer in your own efforts to help pitchers with all the things that you're doing with, pitch grader and the command tracker. Look, if you don't throw strikes and you're just searching for velocity, velocity isn't going to get you to, you can't play with just velocity. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
You can be the hardest thrower on the planet, and if you can't throw the ball inside the box, it's all for nothing. So, and I'm not saying that velocity is bad, because I love velocity just like most people do, but it's get to that useful velocity. Where is it useful? How does it play inside a strike zone? And when you can do that, let's start thinking about being a good quality pitcher.
Yeah, like I say, a complete pitcher. You have velocity, you have command, you have movement, you change speeds, you have character, you have mental toughness. So I think
good effort level. Good effort level.
Yeah.
Add that one in there.
Yeah, I'll have to add that one in.
Ron Romanek and Rick Peterson would be happy about those 5 elements that I still keep going today. And what I got to get you to do is you got to get Marty Demerit on the show, because Marty Demerit is him and Gil Patterson, Ron Romanek, and Gary Ruby are off the chain pitching instructors in this world that probably don't or probably haven't been given enough credit. And Kurt Young, our old major league pitching coach, an amazing pitching coach as well. So,
I have to talk with him, because I think too many, as you said, the young gurus online make up some idea of what they think ought to be successful in the major leagues without talking to the guys who've been there.
Well, it's really hard to understand the big leagues when you're not here, and and whatever information they get is secondhand sometimes, and that's not a knock. That's just facts. And but there's a lot of great ones out there. I can tell you that, and you know who the companies are, and they're great companies. You know, I
they're
don't need to
doing
name
great
them.
for what they
Yeah,
train the kids to do. They're doing really good. It's just
yeah.
like I said, they're not.
It's the guys. There's probably 3 or 4 major guru companies, we'll say that are out there that are amazing. They're awesome. And then there's kind of spin-off guys who are kind of, and I'm not going to say making stuff up, but they're coming up with some stuff that I'm like, geez, man, not even the best in the world can do what you're asking this kid to do.
Yeah. So hopefully this show kind of clears that air and brings out some of the other qualities that you need to be a pitcher and not a thrower. And that's the objective.
Well, I always used to say, I don't need minor league throwers. I need major league pitchers.
See, there you go. Got another emo.
Yeah, there's another
you
one.
got
I
one
guess.
in there.
Yeah, I got one in there.
Everyone always talks about you've got these great sayings that really distill the thought in very few words. You got a real talent for that.
Well, I've learned from the best. So,
all right. Well, thanks, Emo. I hope you're feeling better, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for having me, Wayne.